There was a man named Roland Voss. He was the CEO of a thriving retail company called Urban Edge, a place where thousands of employees worked tirelessly to keep the business running. Roland was known for his sharp suits, his commanding presence, and his ability to make decisions that seemed almost magical in their precision. But deep down, Roland had a secret fear, a fear that he had lost touch with the very people who made his company what it was, the employees. The ones who stocked the shelves, cleaned the floors, and dealt with customers day in and day out. He had built an empire, but he wondered, did he truly understand the weight of the work his employees carried? One evening, as Roland sat in his luxurious office, staring at the city lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he made a decision. He would go undercover. He would step into the shoes of his employees and see for himself what their lives were like. He wanted to know the truth, the raw, unfiltered truth. And so, with a plan in place, Roland Voss, the mighty CEO, became Ronnie, a new hire at Urban Edge. The next morning, Roland walked into the store wearing a simple uniform, his hair slightly messy and a nervous energy in his steps. He was assigned to the grocery department, where he would be working under a woman named Marisol Cruz. Marisol was in her late 40s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She had been with Urban Edge for over 15 years, and she knew the store like the back of her hand. Roland, or rather Ronnie, was about to learn just how little he knew. "All right, new guy," Marisol said, handing him a clipboard. "You're on stocking duty today. We've got a shipment coming in, and it's your job to make sure everything gets where it needs to go. Got it?" Roland nodded, trying to hide his unease. "Got it." The first few hours were a disaster. Roland struggled to lift the heavy boxes, his hands trembling under the weight. He fumbled with the labels, mixing up the aisles and causing chaos in the storage room. Marisol watched him with a raised eyebrow, her arms crossed. "You ever worked in a store before, Ronnie?" Roland hesitated. Not really." Marisol sighed. "Well, you're in for a long day." As the hours dragged on, Roland began to realize just how physically demanding the job was. His back ached, his feet throbbed, and his hands were raw from handling the boxes. But what struck him the most was the mental toll. The constant pressure to move quickly, to get everything done on time, to avoid making mistakes. It was exhausting. And yet, the employees around him worked with a sense of purpose, a quiet determination that left him in awe. During his lunch break, Roland sat in the break room, surrounded by employees who chatted and laughed as they ate. He listened as they talked about their lives, their struggles, their dreams, their families. One woman, a cashier named Tanya, spoke about how she was working 2 jobs to support her son, who was studying to become a doctor. Another man, a stocker named Hector, joked about how he had been at Urban Edge for so long that he could probably run the place blindfolded. Roland felt a pang of guilt. These people were the backbone of his company, and yet he had never taken the time to truly see them. The days turned into weeks, and Roland continued to work undercover, moving from department to department. He worked as a cashier, where he struggled to keep up with the fast-paced transactions and the endless line of customers. He worked in the cleaning crew, where he learned just how much effort went into keeping the store spotless. And he worked in customer service, where he dealt with angry customers and impossible demands. Each experience opened his eyes to a new layer of the company he thought he knew so well. But it wasn't just the work that affected Roland. It was the people. He saw how Marisol went out of her way to help a new employee learn the ropes, even though she had her own work to do. He saw how Tanya always had a smile for the customers, even when she was clearly exhausted. And he saw how Hector, despite his jokes, took pride in his work, making sure every shelf was perfectly stocked. These people weren't just employees. They were a family. And Roland realized that he had been so focused on the big picture, he had forgotten about the little things that truly mattered. One day, as Roland was working in the stockroom, he overheard a conversation between Marisol and another employee. They were talking about the recent changes in the company, the new policies, the increased workload, the lack of communication from the higher-ups. Roland's heart sank as he listened. These were his decisions, his policies, and yet he had never stopped to consider how they would affect the people on the ground. That night, Roland went home with a heavy heart. He sat in his study, staring at the walls, his mind racing. He thought about everything he had seen, everything he had learned, and he realized that he had been wrong. So wrong. He had been so focused on success, on growth, on profits, that he had forgotten about the people who made it all possible. The next day, Roland called a meeting with the senior management team. He stood at the head of the table, his hands clasped behind his back, and spoke from a heart. "I've been doing some thinking," he began, "and I've realized that we've been looking at this company all wrong. We've been so focused on the numbers, on the bottom line, that we've forgotten about the people who make this company what it is. The employees, the ones who work tirelessly, day in and day out, to keep this place running. And it's time we start treating them with the respect they deserve." The room was silent as Roland laid out his plan. He talked about increasing wages, improving working conditions, and creating opportunities for growth and development. He talked about listening to the employees, about valuing their input, about making them feel like they were more than just cogs in a machine. And as he spoke, he saw the looks on the faces of his team, the nods of agreement, the smiles of relief. They knew he was right. In the weeks that followed, Roland made good on his promises. He implemented changes that improved the lives of his employees, and he made a point of getting to know them, of listening to their stories, of understanding their struggles. And as he did, he felt a sense of fulfillment that he had never experienced before. He realized that true success wasn't about money or power. It was about making a difference in the lives of others. The story of Roland Voss, the undercover boss, spread throughout the company. Employees talked about how he had walked in their shoes, how he had seen the world through their eyes, and how he had used that experience to make their lives better. And as they did, they felt a renewed sense of pride in their work, a sense of belonging that had been missing for far too long. As for Roland, he never forgot the lessons he learned during his time undercover. He carried them with him every day, a reminder of the importance of empathy, of humility, of understanding. And as he looked out at the bustling store, at the employees who worked with such dedication and passion, he felt a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the opportunity to lead, to serve, and to make a difference. And so, the story of Roland Voss, the undercover boss, came to an end, but the impact of his journey would be felt for years to come. It was a story of transformation, of growth, of the power of empathy. And it was a reminder that no matter how high we climb, we must never forget the people who help us get there. The moral of the story? True leadership isn't about being at the top. It's about lifting others up along the way. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Stories like these remind us of the power of kindness, courage, and standing up for what's right. If this story touched your heart, made you think, or inspired you in any way, let us know in the comments below. Tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to share this story with others. Sometimes, a simple act of sharing can make a huge impact. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join our community. We've got more heartfelt stories coming your way. Until next time, remember, kindness changes lives. See you soon.